Tyler, tell us first, what did you love this past week?
I love the return of El Contracto himself. Juan Contractz Garcia is finally back. There was some drama over, Medios going public on Twitter saying he was benched, and then should he have been benched? It was 100 Thieves screwing him over once again. Contractz who, kind of disappeared from the universe, going down to academy where almost no one watches except Emily Rand and Kelsey Moser. So really, he was just kind of outside of everyone's mind. He was in the nether realm where very few people watch. So he is outside, out of mind, and people forget. And this weekend, he comes back, wins the weekly MVP of the LCS, and dominates Blaber. Blaber, the reigning MVP of the league, kind of the person who took everything Contractz was supposed to be. Because people forget that when Contractz came to the league 3 years ago on C9, he was that Blaber-style player. He was that next generational jungler, or hopefully the first real mechanically gifted generational jungler from North America. Or people want him to be that mechanical god who could go to the World Championship and, go against the best players they are and not fall down due to, lack of skill. And it looked like he was going to be that player. He came out hot on C9, and then it just seemingly everything just fell apart for him. He left the team unceremoniously. He went to, get a bigger contract on a different team. That didn't work out. He fell to the netherrealm known as Academy, and he kind of disappeared from everyone. And while Contractz fell, Blaber rose up the ranks, and Blaber took over that spot Contractz was supposed to fill. And now Blaber, he is that on the verge of being that world-class jungler, that generational talent that everyone's wanted from an NA jungler for so long. Mike Young, Contractz, now Blaber finally, kind of reaching that destiny. But Contractz, out of nowhere, coming back from the netherrealm, with people actually watching him for once, and he dumpsters Blaber and beating C9 for the first time all season long. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I'm so happy to see Contractz back on the backstage because he had so much potential. He was supposed to be that player. And if we can have another player similar to Blaber, kind of taking his own different route where Blaber's kind of been a steady ascent up the rankings, where Contractz had this dip down to the netherrealm and now kind of finding his way back up. It's only good things if Contractz shows that he could be that consistent player and improve upon, because Contractz is still a young player. He can still become that all-star, superstar jungler that people want him to be from the very beginning. So welcome back, Contractz. I'm very excited to see him back on the stage.
It's funny to think about how young these players are, despite the longevity that they've had and the history that they've had in the LCS. Like, how old is Contractz versus how many years he's been active, or at least had a career in the LCS and Academy? It's just crazy to think sometimes with some of the players.
I had a chance to talk to him, and he also said this in an interview with Travis, but we reiterated it when I was talking to him this past weekend in a written piece that's going to come out later this week. But he did talk about like a loss of motivation that happened when he went to Academy, and he was like, I'm like, the entire time he kind of came at it from a mindset of like, I'm better than this. And it was only, I guess, until he was like humbled by his presence there that he was able to regain like some of his confidence and also a lot of his desire to like play and grind and perform really well. Like he said, I wasn't playing solo queue. I was kind of lost. And it's his kind of like epiphany is really interesting. Like listening to him talk through it, especially since I think one of the things he admitted that he struggled with when he left C9 was actually being like a really strong voice for a team. And if you're a jungler and you don't have kind of a really strong contributing voice, especially early, it's actually really difficult to be in that position and not be really vocal. And so he also like just talked me through like how his comms have evolved and how he has evolved as a player. Obviously, the fact that they left the Olaf up is also a huge reason, a contributing factor in that victory over C9. But I agree, it's really great to see Contractz kind of come out the other side, and he seems like a much more well-rounded, like calm, like more I don't know, he has a lot more self-awareness and self-confidence now, I think. Especially speaking as someone, like I was, I think, one of his second ever interviews, and he was so like shy and quiet, and to see that kind of transformation that he's had over the past few years. And in answer to your question, Arda, he is only 20. And he's been
Man.
playing since Ember days, back in like he was signed to Ember late 2015. If you're looking at like previously he was on Noble Truth and Zenith, but Ember is probably the real team before he went over to C9 Challenger. So yeah, that's like since he was what, approximately 16. Yeah.
It's just crazy, right? Like Tyler took at least 2 minutes to run down Contract's resume, and he's only 20 years old.
Yeah, he's about 6 months
Unreal.
older than Blaber, which is like he's only 6 months older than Blaber. So
Unbelievable.
Contractz still has so much room to grow, which is the exciting thing, right? Where if he could find that consistency, he can find that voice and be that, jungler that we've all wanted him to be. He's a very special talent. And, I welcome all talent that we can actually see these burgeoning, NA talent. We have Blaber, we have Vulcan, now Contractz possibly, Tactical, Johnson. It's an exciting time. I don't want to get over optimistic, but it's exciting to see homegrown talent actually prove itself.